Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Charles, for that introduction. I hope I'm audible to all, and if I'm not audible, please use the chat to let me know. Once again, good afternoon to all who have joined. We would like to thank you for joining, and we can guarantee you that this is going to be a very meaningful and useful session for all of you who don't know about SBC or who are new to DINSTAR. We hope that you'll get to know more about this product as well as about DINSTAR. So today the webinar is obviously it's about SBC, but before we go into the SBC, I would just like to give you an overview of the products that DINSTAR uh, offers. That is, they give IPPBX, they have got VoIP gateways, they have got GSM, 3G, 4G gateways, they have got IP phones, and then they've got SBC. So I hope I hope that all of you are aware of all the products that DINSTAR offers. And now, if you need more details on that, you could uh, drop us an email at sales@benfz.com or support@benfz.com, and we can reach out to you with the required documents and data sheets. All right, so moving ahead with our webinar for today. So DINSTAR SBC. So talking about DINSTAR SBC, I would like to start by first giving an introduction to what SBC is. So SBC stands for Session Border Controller. So talking about this device, this is like a device it's a device which gives security functions and also gives routing features in VoIP environments. So it's like you can tell that this does the function of a firewall. If you were to take in networking terms, like how a firewall would give security features to your network, or like how a router would route between different networks. Technically, that's what an SBC does, but in a VoIP environment. That is in a telephony environment, in a VoIP environment. SBC is the one which takes control. I mean, which gives security for your VoIP network, and which also helps in doing the routing. And additionally, it also helps in NATing functions, and also it helps in making calls between two different environments where the codecs are different. So these are things that SBC does, and you can see it in detail. That's written here. The codecs that are supported in it all can be seen in the slide here. Now, these are the features of the SBC, and as to why DINSTAR SBC is recommended, that is, first of all, it offers good security, and it is interoperable, and also session control, and it is very resilient, and we've got WebRTC. So DINSTAR SBC, using DINSTAR SBC, you can achieve all these things. So that is one reason why we would recommend DINSTAR SBC. And if this is not enough, another reason is if you look at this page, you can see that this DINSTAR SBC was awarded the Product of the Year award of last year, and it's in the UC award. SBC is the one which won, so you can understand how good it is from this. And what you're seeing now is the list of SBC, or the different models of SBC that DINSTAR offers. So this is based on the size of your company or the amount of users. So the least one is SBC 300. Then you've got SBC 1000, SBC 1000, which is enterprise SBC. Then you've got carry SBC, which is SBC 3000. And then say that you've got a requirement that is above, say that you have a requirement for SIP sessions, which are greater than 5,000, or, greater than 10,000 and all, you can go for software SBC, which is SBC 8000. Now, talking about these features, you can see there's a lot of parameters written here. There's SIP session. So SIP session basically is the amount of concurrent calls that you can use, that you can make by using these devices. So if you go to SBC 300, you can see it's written 5 to 50. So that's the amount of concurrent calls that you can make. That is minimum 5, maximum 50. And then in enterprise SBC, the maximum is 500. Carry SBC, it's 5,000, and software SBC, it's 50,000. Coming down, you have transcoding calls. So this is basically the amount of calls that you can make between two different environments using two different codecs. So in SBC 300, it's 50. In SBC 1000, it's 200. In SBC 3000, it's 1,500, and SBC 8000, it's 5,000. Now, calls per second, that is, I hope you can understand the meaning right from the word itself. That is the amount of calls that you can make per second. This can be monitored on your SBC itself, that is on the web page. So on SBC, so you can see on the first two SBCs, it's 25 calls per second, and on SBC 3000, it's 200 per second, and SBC 8000, it's 800 per second. So again, this is based on your requirement. If your environment, if you're working in an environment where you have to make, more than 25 calls per second, then you should probably be going with SBC 3000. Or now if it's greater than 200, then you'll have to go with SBC 8000. And then you have SIP registrations, which is again the number of devices that you can register, number of SIP registrations that you can do with this device. This can be basically the amount of PBXs you can register with, amount of PBXs you can register with this device. So that's what SIP registration stands for. And then you've got SBC 300, you've got 1000 SIP registration, and then SBC 1000, it gives you up to 5,000 SIP registration, SBC 3,000, 20,000 registrations, and uh, SBC 8,000 gives you around 100,000. So again, what you see here are all different features, and it's again based on what you require, what your customer requires. So before you propose to your client one of these models, you should be asking, as in about their user details and how many SIP sessions and all these things. You should be asking them first so that you can give them the appropriate model. All right, so that's it about the different models of SBCs. No, now we will just get into a little bit of the technical details, not so much, but just a basic knowledge. So, talking about the SBCs, they've got two different modes. One is register mode and one is trunk mode. So over here, it's certain work with IMS. So it's basically trunk mode. So what happens in the trunk mode is you'll be connecting a SIP connection directly from your ISP. And as Charles had mentioned earlier, we'll be having a Q&A session at the, we'll be having a, we'll be having a Q&A session at the end of this session. So if you've got questions, note it down, or you can drop it down in the chat, so that, at the end, we can help you out with those questions. Okay, so let's get into the register mode. Okay, so what you see here now, okay, it is a scenario where you're not using any SBC. You're just, you're using an extension, and it is basically an extension from a branch office. Then you're connecting it via the internet to an IP PBX, which is in your headquarter office. So now this is possible, this is achievable, but then the issue is there is no control. That is, when you look into the headquarter network, as you're making the SIP connection from your branch office, there's a possibility that any threat or attacks can come to your headquarter network. And the reason why this can happen is your VoIP environment is not protected by any security features. So that is why you've got SBC. As I told in the beginning itself, SBC acts like a firewall. So that's the reason why we bring SBC into the picture. So when you register with SBC, what happens is, as it goes through the internet, in the headquarters, you have placed an SBC there. So as this call is hitting, it would first hit the SBC, and then it would go into the PBX, and later on PBX would route the call onto the particular extension, or if it's a ring group, it'll go to the ring group, or if it's for a fax, it'll go to the fax. So what an SBC does in this scenario is that it gives security features, ensuring that the VoIP environment here in the picture is a headquarter office, ensuring that the VoIP environment of your headquarter office is safe and secure. Right. So now this is like in register mode. So I had mentioned earlier, we've got like two modes in in our SPCs. That is, one is register, one is trunk. So this is how the network topology would look like in the register mode. So how this happens is, now I'm sure that most of you would know what Xlite is. So Xlite is basically a soft phone which you can which you can install on your laptop. So here we have used Xlite just as an example, just to show the scenario. So what in the picture, I'll just explain this topology first. So the thing is, in one branch office, you have a laptop with Xlite installed in it. So what's happening is it is going through the internet, and then via SBC you're connecting to another branch office to the headquarter where you've got a PBX and the phones are registered on it. So that's what register mode is. So now we'll be seeing next about how to configure the register mode download. So when you go through that, you'll get a much clearer image as to what register mode is. So how we can, so this is just a configuration of the network, or this is how the image looks on the web page. So now how to configure the ports, or how to configure in the register mode is that first you'll open the page system, and then you have an option called transport endpoint. You would go there and you would add a rule, and then you would give the ID, and then you will give a name of your desired choice. And here by default it's UDP, but it can support TCP and TLS protocols as well. So that is also what that is also an information that is worth noting. And also now the thing is, now we are using outside register. So what that means is you're registering your Xlite, which is elsewhere. So this is called as outside register. So in order to make calls possible, you'll have to enable the option called dedicated to access network. You'll have to enable that, then only you can allow calls, I mean allow the register outside register to happen. So yeah, then so here this is how you can add a trunk, how you can add a SIP trunk. So uh, you'll just go to open page system and access SIP trunk, and then you will add a new trunk. So then okay, so talking about this is about adding a trunk which is directly coming from your ISP. So this is basically a trunk mode. So on trunk mode, how the configuration done is you would do it like this. You will go to the open page system and you will click access the trunk, and you will click add new trunk, and then you'll add the parameters, that is the IP address and everything. And then so basically in trunk mode what happens is you'll be getting the username and password details directly from your ISP or your service provider, and you will have to add it inside this device. All right, so this what you see here is again configuration for the register mode, where you're registering an external phone in another branch and you're connecting with the PBX in your headquarters. So this is the options for it. I hope you understood it. So that is again an example of that. So now what you see here is basically, so in the image you saw that you could see that we had registered two endpoints for the register mode, and this is how it looks like once you're done. This is how the GUI would look like. And then this is how you can configure the codec. That is, you would go to open page system, choose code profile, and you'll add a new rule. So this, what you do here is you add codec rules for while you're making register mode, you would add codec rules to ensure that which all codecs will be supported in the call. Because that's another feature that SBC does. That is, it supports calls between different codecs. So that is also one use case of SBC. Now coming to the next mode, that is trunk mode. It is also called as work with IMS, but uh, in our language it's called as trunk mode. I'm sure everyone who's been working with PBX would know what a trunk mode is. So that's what we have it here. And then now, okay, so now here we have like three different types of networks. So this is something that you need to understand. First one we have is we've got something called as access network. Second is access SIP trunk, and the third one is core SIP trunk. So talking about core SIP trunk is basically the SIP registration that you would do between the PBX and the SPC. That is called as core SIP trunk. Access SIP trunk is when you're registering your SBC with the local network. That is, you'll be when you're registering the SBC with the local network, that is called as access SIP trunk. And access network is where you would be entering the IP details and all the username password details from your service provider when you're registering in the trunk mode. So you need to be sure of all these, especially if you're a technical guy. You'll have to be sure of all these three different options, and you need to know the differences between these so that you don't get confused, because it would be helpful for you during the configuration time. So this is how topology looks like for trunk mode. That is what you see here is you would basically directly give the connection to the ports of the SBC, to one of the port of the SBC, and then you would make a SIP. You would use your core SIP trunk to make a SIP registration between the SBC and IPPBX, and then you can make calls. So this extensions can make outgoing calls through the SIP connection that is given to your SBC through your ISP. So yeah, so this is the details, that is, you can see the IP and all these things. So this is just an example so that you can understand what the image is and how it works and how it is different from the register mode. So this is again how you can configure a SIP trunk and access the trunk. So this is for the trunk mode. So you can see it here. Basically in remote IP port, you would put the IP address, and then again, like before, you have options to select which codec, and you can put names. So uh, you can put names again based on what the scenario is. That is, over here the scenario is it is a trunk mode and it's coming from an ISP, so we can see how they've given the naming. So that's an example of how a good naming strategy is. And yeah, so this is what I was talking about. This is you have an option called registration. So if you don't enable this option called registration, even if you enter the details that we saw on the previous page, your SIP connection, that is your trunk mode, still wouldn't be up, because these are the main details which enable the communication between the ISP and the SBC in the trunk mode. So we have got cases where people have done all the previous configuration properly, but they tell the SIP is not up. And when we check, the thing is they haven't enabled registration. So first you need to enable registration, and you need to ensure that you've given the username and authentication ID, which is usually same as the username and the password, properly. Then only the trunk mode will be activated. So that's something that you need to keep in your mind while you're working in the trunk mode. So this is basically how you can add routing rules in the trunk mode. So talking about routing rules, you have got the same thing even in the register mode. So in the register mode, first you will set the source as the during outgoing calls, you'll set the source as the external phone which you register through Xlite, and you'll put the destination as a PBX. So when you call any extension in your headquarters office through the Xlite or your externally registered phone, it will first hit the PBX, and the PBX would, it'll first go through the SBC, to the PBX, and the PBX will direct it to one of the extension. And that is for outgoing, and then incoming is vice versa. That is, the source would be your PBX and destination would be your Xlite phone or the external phone which you registered. And coming to trunk mode, you again have an incoming call route and you have outgoing call route. So in this, the source would be the access the trunk or the trunk which you got from your ISP, and the destination would be your core SIP trunk, that is your connection with the PBX. Basically, the destination would be a PBX. And so that is about the incoming call route for the trunk mode. So this is not so much, we haven't dived into so much of the technical details. It's just the important technical details that's required for you for the initial configuration, because this information should help you to make a system up and do all the basic functionality. So that's it for today. Now, if you need more technical details, or if you need any commercial details, feel free to drop an email to us at sales@benfc.com. Or if it's something related to support, you can reach out to us at support@benfc.com. Now we have a Q&A session. So if you have any queries or if you have any doubts, please feel free to use this opportunity. You can drop your questions down in the chat below, and we'll be answering them one by one. Okay, sorry, I was on mute. I didn't see that. Okay, so we've got a question here, and the question is, I saw the enterprise model have modules. Is it possible to add PRI or FXO ports to it? Well, I guess your question is, I guess you're trying to ask if this can be used as a gateway. Well, no, that's not possible because SBC, that's not what SBC does. SBC doesn't act as a substitute for your FXO or PRI gateway. So that's not possible. Okay, so we'll be waiting for a few more minutes. Let's see if you're getting more questions, we'll be answering them, or else we can wind up the session. So we'll be waiting for a few more minutes. Okay, we've got another question. Have this device tested with other PBX like YesStar, Free PBX, or 3CX? This has been tested with 3CX and YesStar, and it has been working fine with both of them. So technically, it should also work well with Free PBX. But yeah, as per our info, we have only tested with YesStar and 3CX, so we can only comment on that. And yeah, it works. It works with them. Okay, we've got a question, another question. If we deploy the SBC on public network, do we still need to use ordinary firewall too? Yeah, we would require the existing firewall because that is the firewall which is protecting your network. But see, SBC, the kind of protection that SBC gives, it only secures your VoIP environment, or it only secures your VoIP network. It doesn't do the role of a firewall in, like in protecting your entire network, but it rather just takes care of your VoIP traffic. Okay, so I guess that's it for the questions. Now, if you've got more questions, please feel free to drop an email to support at benfc.com, or if you have got any queries regarding sales or commercials, please feel free to drop an email to sales@benfc.com. So you can see our support email on this page itself. I mean, on the slide, you can see it's written down below. It's support@benfc.com, and our website is there, www.beninfotech.com. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for joining. I hope this was a useful session for all of you. And once again, thank you for joining. Have a nice day.